I'm Dwight Drummond. Tonight, terrorism charges have been laid against the man accused of killing 4 members of a Muslim family in London, Ontario.
This sends a really clear message that crimes like this, we met with the harshest penalties of the law.
We'll have details on the new charges and an update on the young boy who survived the attack. Plus,
if you're going to let people know that they can book a second dose, make sure that they actually can.
Ontario residents in a number of COVID-19 hotspots can now book their second vaccine dose, but it's proving to be a challenge for some. And Linda OLeary, the wife of celebrity businessman Kevin OLeary, goes on trial in connection with a deadly boating crash in Muskoka. First tonight, authorities have laid terrorism charges against the man accused of killing 4 members of a Muslim family in London, Ontario last week. The charges were upgraded from 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Meanwhile, the young boy who survived the attack is now out of hospital. Thomas Daigle now with the latest.
After the teddy bears and words of support left by the community, now 9-year-old Fayez Afzal has been released from hospital. With the boy's sister, parents, and grandmother all killed in last week's attack, the child, who was badly injured himself, is now recovering with relatives.
We're all just worried about psychologically how he might be and the long road ahead from that perspective.
And today, from the courthouse in London, came a move demanded by the community. Federal and provincial prosecutors agreed to pursue this case as terrorism. The change points to investigators uncovering more about the accused's motive.
I suspect that there's something that they have in their possession that outlines a little bit more than just an anti-Muslim sentiment.
Nathaniel Veltman showed no emotion as he appeared over Zoom while the charges were read out. He's facing 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 of attempted murder. Asked in court, "Those are your charges, sir. Do you understand that?" He calmly replied, "Yes, ma'am."
They've been allowed to attach it to terrorist activity, simply saying that he's engaged in this act for a political, ideological, or religious purpose to try and either scare people or cause violence.
For a conviction, prosecutors will not only have to show evidence the attack was pre-planned, but that it was intended to intimidate part of the population.
Whenever something like this happens, you know what the impact is. People feel terrorized, people feel scared.
The accused remains in custody and faces a life sentence if convicted. He's scheduled to return to court in 1 week. Thomas Daigle, CBC News, Toronto.
People in a number of COVID-19 hotspots, including Toronto and Peel, are now able to book second dose appointments, but doing so is proving to be a challenge for some. Chris Glover joins us live from the Metro Toronto Convention Centre. And Chris, some people are having problems booking through our provincial system.
Many people who tried to access that system this morning they ended up getting vaccine appointments offered to them some hundreds of kilometers away, completely unfeasible and also nearly shocking to believe, according to some people, when you consider the fact that Ontario's first vaccine dose was given out exactly 6 months to the day.
So I just got it. I feel completely fine.
May 4th, when 34-year-old Michelle Diaz got shot 1, her second COVID dose was scheduled for the end of August. But today, another acceleration in Ontario's vaccine plan meant she could book dose 2 right away.
I set all of my alarms this morning from 7 o'clock to 7:30.
The Mississauga resident's early morning excitement dashed when she was offered appointments hundreds of kilometers away, and even they didn't pan out.
So I've tried about 10 to 15 times to book the offering that was given to me, which was, in some cases, Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, and they would just disappear. If you're going to let people know that they can book a second dose, make sure that they actually can. It's giving us false hope.
Some so fed up with the online system, they ditched it for a real line, like this man at a pop-up in North York.
I tried several times. After it doesn't work, I have to come here to line up for an hour.
To spend hours, trying to play the Vaccine Hunger Games 2.0 to score a shot.
The assistant director of Ontario's Science Advisory Table is floored with the challenges. Exactly 6 months into Ontario's vaccine rollout and with cases of the Delta variant rapidly growing.
to combat the Delta variant, we have to make this as accessible as possible and lower all the barriers.
It spreads 1.5 times faster than the Alpha variant that fueled Ontario's punishing third wave. And one dose of a vaccine is proving less effective against it. So starting today, people in 7 Delta hotspots, including Toronto and Peel, who got a first dose on or before May 9th, can book a second vaccine. And this weekend, Ontario followed other provinces, reducing the wait time for a second dose of AstraZeneca from 12 weeks down to 8.
We want to get people as fully protected as possible.
Despite today's challenges, by midday, more than 80,000 appointments had been booked.
We're just asking people to be patient. We're working with public health unit regions to create more spaces.
The health minister promised the kinks will be worked out, especially as an influx of millions of more doses are expected in the coming weeks.
We should have ironed out these kinks. People are ready to move on with their lives, such as myself, and this is slowing us down and making it harder.
So as frustrating as it was for some people today, Dwight, it certainly was effective for a lot of people in Ontario. The province just sending me an update now saying that as of 3 p.m., 136,000 appointments had been booked through the provincial system. And I also got another really important update that a lot of us will want to pay attention to, and that is the fact that now just more than 15% of Ontarians have 2 doses of a COVID vaccine. And that's important to watch because the second phase of Ontario's reopening plan is requiring 20% of us to have 2 doses and be fully vaccinated. So certainly we are inching closer to that threshold as well tonight.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Chris. Now, after nearly 2 months, the border between Quebec and Ontario is reopening. Both provincial governments announced that as of Wednesday, emergency restrictions on interprovincial travel are being dropped. Amar Khan now with more.
On Wednesday, Ottawans and Gatineau residents will be able to move freely across the provincial borders. From Ottawa City Hall, the reopening comes with a sigh of relief.
Finally, the 2 governments have made the right decision, I think, to open up the barricades, open up the checkpoints.
Total price tag for the closure was $850,000, which the province will pay to Ottawa Police. Mayor Watson did not mince words about the hefty costs incurred.
It certainly cost a lot of money, over $800,000, over $600,000, and I'm glad that they've come to their senses and brought the checkpoints down.
As soon as the checkpoints are gone, it seems like at least a few Ottawans are eager to cross over.
It's a nice day and it's not raining. I'll probably try to cross over and get that nice view and maybe pick up a coffee on that side.
The border reopening comes as Ottawa is still in step 1, where outdoor patios are permitted and non-essential businesses have just reopened. Quebec is further along. Casinos are open and people are able to access personal care services. The lifting of border restrictions is being embraced by Gatineau businesses. For Elijah Belliard, he's already booking appointments for Ottawans looking for a trim.
Right now, I know it's unfortunate for Ontario, but it's a win now, so they discovered our place. So for sure, I'm pretty sure 90% of the people that came in, if they're gonna come back.
That's not the case for everyone. While Angela Patty may cross over for the view, she doesn't intend to do anything restricted in Ontario.
I feel like it's a waiting game for me. I think it'll be available in the next couple of months, so I'm not really losing any sleep over that. But I do like that it gives people options.
Also, the provincial borders reopening means people traveling to Quebec from Ontario will no longer need to self-isolate. Amar Khan, CBC News, Ottawa.
For the first time ever, Ontario has invoked the notwithstanding clause.
The ayes being 63 and the nays being 47, I declare the motion carried.
Controversial bill passed late this afternoon by a 63-47 vote, as you just heard there. It will limit spending on ads like these by third parties for a year before an election, double what existed before. Now, the Ford government had to add the notwithstanding clause to it after a judge ruled the original legislation was unconstitutional. The government had argued that the legislation was needed to protect elections from outside influence. The notwithstanding clause allows the bill to override sections of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The opposition denied unanimous consent late last week, forcing weekend sittings. They also tried to introduce more than 100 motions today to stall the passage of the bill.
I cannot see why any government would need to use this sledgehammer approach. This government didn't need to do that. They could have brought legislation that passes the smell test when it comes to our constitutional rights, but they chose not to.
There's a reason that no single other premier in Ontario history, be that a Liberal premier or an NDP premier or a previous Conservative premier, has ever hit the nuclear button the way that Doug Ford is today, because he's scared, because he's a coward, because he doesn't want nurses, doctors, personal support workers, teachers, education workers to actually speak up and hold him and his team to account.
Premier Ford was not in the legislature today to answer questions from the opposition about the use of the notwithstanding clause. Today, the province announced a plan to accelerate a return to play for professional sports leagues and international events, with competition expected to resume this summer. This is welcome news for sports that have been dark since the start of the pandemic, and for teams like our Jays and TFC, which have been forced to relocate south of the border. Greg Ross has more.
And he hits the ball hard to right center field. Do you believe it? Guerrero with an opposite field home run.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is having a career year for the Blue Jays, but has yet to step foot in Toronto this season. That could change if all goes well with a new plan laid out by the province.
This is an accelerated path forward for 18 leagues and international sporting events.
Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture Lisa MacLeod says Major League Baseball, the NHL, NBA, MLS, CFL and OHL are among the leagues affected by today's announcement.
The Blue Jays, the Raptors, the OHL and many others have been given the green light to go ahead and present their plan and be eligible for return to play.
For teams like the Blue Jays and TFC, those proposals are much more complicated because players need to travel in and out of the country, which requires permission from the federal government, a point Jays President Mark Shapiro stressed earlier this month.
Until the border is open, any proposal would have to deal with that and create a set of circumstances that allowed cross-border travel for players, families, and visiting teams. And that is not an easy thing to do. It's not impossible, but it's not an easy thing to do.
It's something organizers of the National Bank Tennis Championship will need to work out as well, with international players flying in to compete. But that didn't stop them from announcing plans to move forward with tournaments later this summer. The CFL also announced plans for a tentative 14-game schedule starting in August.
Good to be talking about football again, I bet.
Woo! Yes. Slightly excited.
Argo's GM Mike Pinball Clemens says they have fewer obstacles with all of the teams in the league based in Canada and no need for cross-border travel.
We just need it. I mean, this is our caffeine, right? And being sort of the only league whose all their teams are here in Canada makes it special and important for us as a country as well.
There is still another crucial detail that needs to be worked out for all of these sporting events, and that's whether or not fans will be allowed in the stands.
We're at a point where we're having very good conversations about fans and stands. We have worked with a number of groups like the Senators, the Red Blacks, all of the OSEG group actually, as well as MLSE and others.
MacLeod says if and when fans can return will depend on things like COVID-19 case counts and vaccines. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Everybody looking for patio weather there, Nick. Not so much right now.
Don't look too hard right now.
Folks sat on the patio in the rain like we've been waiting for so long. It didn't matter.
Oh, I know exactly. I think at this point we'll take anything. I don't know if you got caught in the rain. I almost did today. I'm sure a lot of people did, especially if you're out on the west end. We've had these on and off showers, actually some thunderstorms. Got a report of some hail out toward Etobicoke earlier today. Rain streaming down. And one thing you'll notice is that this particular band has pretty much been stationary throughout the day. So it's sort of slowly shifted from Etobicoke down to around about Burlington, Hamilton area right now. But that's been an all-day event. So lots of rainfall in the west end, not so much in the east end, although we're still seeing some pop-up showers at this point. It will continue into the evening, although slowly easing up as this whole system pushes out. Look for some showers throughout the evening hours tonight and then overnight as well. So this kind of clears out later tonight, then a little bit more in the way of rain showers through the overnight period. By tomorrow morning, though, there is a slight chance if you're up early enough, you may see some wet weather. But generally speaking, by the time most of us are up tomorrow morning, it'll clear out, and then we've got sunshine in the forecast as we head through tomorrow. And in fact, for that matter, the next few days as well. Temperature-wise, we were up at 24, 22 degrees right now. As we head through the overnight period, temperatures down to about 15 degrees, 15 to 17, depending where you are. 24 tomorrow with the high, a little breezy out of the northwest, gust to about 40 kilometers per hour. We do have lots of sunshine in the forecast, though. I will tell you all about that coming up. Dwight.
See you in a bit, Nick.
This weather update is brought to you by Train. For a limited time, take advantage of 36 equal payments and 0% financing. It's hard to stop a train.
Toronto police say they made a handful of arrests and laid dozens of charges for illegal weekend parties. At Ashbridges Bay, police said they arrested 2 teens for shooting fireworks at people and arrested a man for attempted murder after a 16-year-old boy was stabbed. A DJ was also charged at an illegal party on Woodbine Beach Friday night. In total, police responded to 79 large indoor and outdoor gathering calls across the city this weekend. 2 men are dead after a shooting last night in the Danforth and Eglinton area. Investigators remain at the scene of the shooting, which happened just before 11 last night. Both victims were found in the parking lot of a strip mall suffering from gunshot wounds. Police attempted life-saving measures, but both men died at the scene. 2 men have been arrested, but investigators so far have not confirmed if they are the suspects. Police are asking anyone who witnessed what happened or has dashcam video to contact police or Crime Stoppers. A short time later, there was another deadly shooting. This one took place near Trethewey and Black Creek Drive just before 11:30 last night. Police were called to an apartment complex where a man was discovered on the sidewalk. He's been identified as 32-year-old Brendan Daly. Investigators say he had been at a party that was being held at the back of the buildings. They are appealing for anyone with information to contact them. A high-profile trial got underway in Parry Sound today. Linda OLeary, the wife of celebrity businessman Kevin OLeary, faces charges related to a deadly boating crash back in 2019. Ellen Moore now with the details.
Linda OLeary arrived for day 1 of her trial in the rain here in Parry Sound this morning, a moment nearly 2 years in the making. In August 2019, OLeary drove her boat into another vessel in Ontario's cottage country. 2 people on the other boat were killed. The wife of celebrity businessman Kevin OLeary was charged with careless operation of a vessel. The court heard from Dr. Irv Edwards, the owner of the boat OLeary hit, who described the crash as a huge impact. Edwards detailed the severe head injuries sustained by Gary Poltash and Susanna Brito, the 2 victims who died in the crash. They were seated in the front of his boat. Poltash, Edwards said, was his best friend. Edwards and his guests, he said, were out stargazing on his boat when the crash occurred. The court was shown grainy nighttime surveillance video from his cottage and the OLearys that showed the moment of impact. Edwards said that his boat was lit, but the defense argued that what he said was his boat was actually a light on a cottage in the distance. Whether or not the Edwards boat was lit is going to be a huge part of the OLeary defense. Her lawyers are set to argue that she couldn't see Edwards' boat before it was too late. Edwards testified that on that night it sounded like OLeary was driving her vessel at a substantial rate of speed. Edwards, a doctor from California, testified all day, sparring with the defense. He'll be back on the stand tomorrow. Linda OLeary is not facing any jail time. If convicted, she's looking at a $10,000 fine. There are also a slew of civil lawsuits in relation to that deadly night. The family of Susanna Brito has filed a wrongful death suit against the OLearys, seeking $2 million in damages. The OLearys have filed their own $3 million lawsuit, theirs against Irv Edwards. The trial is set to continue for the rest of the week and pick up again in mid-July. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Parry Sound, Ontario.
When we come back, the sweet sound of live music is almost here in Toronto.
Save the children of the earth who wait to find the table bare. Save a gentry in the country riding off to take the air.
Gordon Lightfoot, just one of the big names on Massey Hall's schedule this fall. Yelena Adzik joins us with more after the break.
Gotta get up. Listen to me. Clap your hands. Stomp your feet. Nothing's wrong if you move to the beat.
Love that jam. There's Serena Ryder with her hit Stompa. A lot of people are missing that feeling of clapping your hands after a live performance. But now there are signs of hope that the curtains will open up again. To talk about the state of the stage, Yelena Adzik joins us now. So Yelena, Serena Ryder, one of the many performers just announced as part of the reopening of Massey Hall. What do we know about the timelines and the roster so far?
Yeah, well, we know that a lot of arts lovers are going to have a smile on their face, Dwight, because yes, this is some good news. Let me give you a sense of some of the performers announced today. There are really quite a few of them. Big names like Gordon Lightfoot, for example, Buffy St. Marie. Also, we've got Broken Social Scene. They're going to be back together on the stage. Then you get a look at Buffy and fresh off of her appearance at the Junos. And then Broken Social Scene, as I mentioned, a lot of people are just, they love this band. They've been performing together for so long, so many hailing from Toronto, just really, really happy to see them back on stage. Same goes with the Glorious Sons. They've actually got 3 dates, so rockers are going to love that news. And then Mavis Staples. This is a staple on the scene, not just in music, but also for the civil rights movement. Really a legend. So she's also got dates now. This is an institution, really, that is celebrating its 127th birthday. And, you know, when Massey Hall reopens, it's going to happen in November of this year, Dwight. So 2021, that's their plan, to have us in there for November, and they've got a whole bunch more that they've listed on the website at masseyhall.com. But in the meantime, it is worth noting that this is just something that people are excited to see because it has been completely revamped. If anybody watched the Junos and saw the Tragically Hip's performance, they actually were there coming from Massey Hall. So that's something special. Now, I wanted to share with you another arts institution. It's just been on the scene, stalwart. Well, it's also revitalizing. There you're getting a look at a new major building as part of the Stratford Festival. It's called the Tom Patterson Theatre. And this is something that is really just absolutely cutting edge when it comes to the volume, the sound, the way that they've created the space so it's so intimate and special, the lighting, as I mentioned. So let me give you a listen now to Seamak Hariri. He is the renowned architect who's on the project, as well as artistic director Anthony Cimolino. They're on stage talking about the importance of us all getting back together again in theaters.
People come here, and together as a community, they decide what's laughable, they decide what is heroic and beautiful. This is a place where we, in a way, decide upon the kind of human beings we will be together.
And I have to tell you, Dwight, as I've been watching some of this footage, empty, you can see that that's empty. The idea of it being filled again, it really does fill me up, as it does so many other people. So there's a lot to look forward to. That one won't be till 2022, but in the meantime, you know, it's something to keep your fingers crossed for.
Yeah, we do miss the stage. For those who can't wait, there has been another option available if you've got some outdoor yard space. Yeah. Bring us up to speed on the, was it porch side concerts happening in Toronto?
You got it. And this is so fun, Dwight. Let me give you a listen, a little bit of a sound up. This is from Asian Riffing. They're called the Asian Riffing Trio, and they're actually riffing on Alanis Morissette. And yes, they are in somebody's yard. Have a listen.
Baby, love is the reason why. For the first time ever, we're seeing it eye to eye. First time ever seeing it eye to eye. First time ever seeing it. Oh, first time ever seeing it.
So you see there, people are distanced. They're keeping their distance. This is all put on by the musical stage company. And I'm going to give you a listen now to one of the performers who has a performance coming up. She's actually big in Broadway. She's been in Hadestown, and now she's going to be on a lawn in your town. Have a listen to her.
People want to be entertained. People want to be transported. People want to have that connection, even if it's still at a 6 feet distance, to be in the same room or same vicinity as someone. You cannot replace that. And they want, and they're longing for that connection.
If you want her to come to your lawn, you can always just Google porch side songs, porch side songs. So I'm giving you a little bit of positivity for today, Dwight.
I guarantee you some folks are out there Googling right now. Thank you, Yelena.
See you soon.
When we come back, the return to Wonderland.
We're going to be opening at less than 25%.
The amusement park has announced its plans to welcome guests this summer when the gates will open and the COVID-19 protocols that will be in place when we come back. Ottawa has announced it is moving ahead on 2 of the calls to action contained in the Truth and Reconciliation report. Item number 15 calls for the establishment of a Commissioner of Indigenous Languages. Item number 17 calls for Indigenous people to be allowed to use their birth names on government documents. Olivia Stefanovic explains.
The hope placed in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations slowly coming to fruition 6 years later.
Some of our languages are hanging by a thread, having lost all or nearly all of their speakers.
Ottawa is appointing a Commissioner of Indigenous Languages.
This gives us hope and shows we can turn this around, giving the right resources, institutional support, and especially working together.
The federal government is also waiving administrative costs for up to 5 years so Indigenous people can reclaim their traditional names on official documents.
It will apply not only to residential school survivors and their families, but to all Indigenous people in Canada, and it will be totally free.
The announcements come just after the Senate passed proposed legislation that would change the citizenship oath to recognize treaties with Indigenous peoples.
These are calls to action that could have been completed a long time ago.
The moves bring Ottawa closer to fulfilling all 94 calls to action, but some question the government's motivation.
They're responding to their polling numbers and not to, the importance of completing the calls to action.
What they're picking and choosing out of the TRC calls to action are the stuff that politically doesn't cost them.
The NDP is demanding the government urgently reform the child welfare system and drop its litigation against a human rights tribunal order requiring Ottawa compensate First Nations children for harm suffered in foster care.
So on the day that they are in court against Indigenous kids, I think it just stinks of hypocrisy.
The government says it is committed to compensating Indigenous children and systematic reform, even though it admits that change may not come as fast as some would like. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
The man who once led Canada's vaccine rollout is now challenging the federal government's decision to publicly terminate him from that role. Last month, the Department of National Defense issued a short statement saying Major General Danny Forte would be leaving his post. Sources told CBC News that a sexual misconduct allegation against Forte had been raised. Well, today, his lawyer filed an application for a judicial review of his removal. It argues that he was denied procedural fairness and alleges there was improper political interference in the military chain of command all the way up to the Prime Minister. A senior military official has stepped down following a recent golfing outing with retired Chief of the Defense Staff, Jonathan Vance. Vance is currently under investigation for sexual misconduct, and today Lieutenant General Mike Rouleau announced he would be resigning as the second in command of the military. Rouleau golfed with Vance at the Highlands Golf and Country Club in Ottawa on June 2nd, along with Commander of the Royal Canadian Navy, Vice Admiral Craig Baines. As Chief of Defense Staff, Rouleau has authority over the military's Provost Marshal. The Marshal is in charge of the Canadian Forces National Investigation Service, which is looking into the allegations against Vance. Rouleau said he invited Vance to play golf to ensure his wellness and he insisted he and Vance did not discuss anything related to the ongoing investigations during their outing. The NATO summit got underway in Brussels today. Many Western leaders see this year's meeting as a pivotal moment for the alliance because of threats posed by China and Russia. All eyes are on the much-anticipated meeting this week between Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin. And as Evan Dwyer reports, Kremlin's past aggression in Ukraine still casts a long shadow.
Our relationship with Russia is at its lowest point since the Cold War.
If the enemy of my enemy is my friend, that ought to be good news for Ukraine, which has been trying to join NATO for years. Stephen Harper first sponsored it 13 years ago, and the Trudeau government has also offered support, sending Canadian troops to train Ukrainians against this. Russia massed over 100,000 troops on Ukraine's borders this spring, prompting new urgent appeals from Ukraine to come under NATO's umbrella. But it doesn't look like happening anytime soon. With the front line running right through Ukraine and Russian troops inside the country, there's no way to bring Ukraine into NATO without risking a major war with Russia. That essentially means that NATO has run out of room to grow. It already has 30 members, including 3 former Soviet republics. In Latvia, Canada commands NATO's forces. And others that want in, like Georgia, have little chance of persuading NATO to open its doors. Because the goal now is to keep tensions with Russia from escalating further. So Canadian officials say they've supported Ukraine, but now won't commit to back its bid to join NATO. Prime Minister Trudeau said today he's not looking to escalate tensions.
Yeah, we can't be naive about Putin's intentions. We have to figure out how to engage with each other while still being coordinated and standing up for our principles and values.
U.S. President Joe Biden is preparing to meet Vladimir Putin on Wednesday. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky had pleaded to meet him first, but the White House said no. Zelensky says that Biden promised him his country wouldn't be a bargaining chip in that Biden-Putin summit, while NATO promised more training and support, which could lead to more commitments from Canada. It all suggests that Ukraine hasn't been abandoned, but also that there's no appetite to risk war with Russia by inviting it to enter the club. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Brussels.
Concerns in the UK over the fast-rising Delta COVID variant have caused a change in that country's reopening timeline.
We're seeing cases growing by about 64% per week, and in the worst affected areas, it's doubling every week. And the average number of people being admitted to hospital in England has increased by 50% week on week and by 61% in the northwest, which may be the shape of things to come.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announcing today that the next planned relaxation of restrictions will be delayed by 4 weeks. The new date to move to the next stage is now July 19th. It's expected that 2/3 of the British population will be fully vaccinated by then. Nearly 8,000 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 were reported today in the UK. That's one of the highest daily numbers since the end of February. 90% of new infections there are the Delta variant. Drive tests reopened today, welcoming permit holders back behind the wheel, and there's a huge demand. Some people waiting for their tests say they've been forced to rebook up to 3 times.
It hit, and it just kept on delayed. So if I don't get it now, I don't think I'll ever get it.
I'm trying to see if I can book an appointment. It's just crazy online, trying to get it through online. So I'm trying to see if I can get it through. Done here today.
My appointment got canceled twice actually, right? Yeah. So I was just checking every 3 days or so for whatever spot was available, and I was lucky enough to get it today.
In-vehicle tests have been on hold since April 3rd when the province-wide shutdown began. The Ministry of Transportation said they are adding 167 additional driver examiners and extending hours for in-vehicle tests. After being closed for all of 2020, Canada's Wonderland is getting ready to once again open its doors to the public. The park has set an official reopening date that aligns with Step 2 of the province's reopening plan. While many are sure to enjoy the York Region Amusement Park throughout the summer, Toronto's large outdoor events remain cancelled. Bill Manuknuk has more.
These rides won't be empty much longer. Canada's Wonderland plans to reopen on July 7th.
Everyone here at the park is very excited to see guests back. This place is usually bustling with life.
The amusement park will be opening at less than 25% capacity. Reservations are going to be required for everyone, and those bookings open up this Thursday at 9 a.m.
We're having guests book not only their day of visit, but also their arrival time. And so this is going to help us manage capacity in the park.
Ontario will consider entering Step 2 21 days after entering Step 1, which was on July 11th. According to the province's roadmap to reopen, along with key public health indicators, Ontario will move to Step 2 when 70% of adults have had their first vaccination dose and 20% of all adults are fully vaccinated. That will enable more outdoor activity, including amusement and water parks.
When they talk about July the 7th and that, if we're in Step 2, we actually have some aspects noted in there as far as gatherings and groups and that.
According to CBC's latest tracking, 64% of Ontarians have received at least one dose and nearly 13% are fully vaccinated.
The province opened Step 1 a little bit early, and I think we're on track to possibly see Step 2 a little early, well in advance of our July 5th season pass holder day. But at the same time, a business the operation size of ours requires a bit of a runway to get open.
Canada's Wonderland will require face coverings for everyone aged 2 and older while in the park, with some exceptions. York Region Public Health has received a COVID-19 safety plan from the amusement park for feedback and are working with them to support a safe reopening. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
All these outdoor activities, times here. How's the weather cooperating, Nick?
Maybe not tonight, but tomorrow looks pretty good. We actually got passes to Canada's Wonderland. I haven't been for years, and we figured it would be a good time.
Dude, you're a dad now. You have no choice.
That's right. You get to relive all of those childhood things once again, right? Anyway, hopefully, we were lucky with the summer last year. It was quite nice. Hopefully, we're going to see a repeat of that as we head into the summer. Not so today, but the rest of the week, as I mentioned, actually looking pretty good. Let's talk about what's happening right now. Still looking at rain and thunderstorms in some areas across the region right now. They're all coming down from the northwest. We're looking at some up toward the Caledon area. This will continue through the next few hours into the evening. On and off showers, particularly in the west end of the GTA. It's part of some sort of upper level instability that's moving its way slowly out of the region. So we're going to see that continue into tonight, and then by tomorrow, things basically break up. So here's a broader look at the picture here. You put the board into motion, on and off showers. You notice that one wave that moved through. We're expecting to see more in the way of showers, maybe even a thunderstorm through the overnight period tonight. By tomorrow morning, though, and this takes us to 8 a.m., generally clears out. If you're up early enough, you may see some rainfall, but otherwise it's going to be dry for the day tomorrow. In fact, we've got high pressure pushing across. That's going to lead to sunshine for tomorrow afternoon and actually for the next few days. It's not till we get right to the end of the week where we're seeing more in the way of rainfall as another system makes its way through. That's about the picture you can expect. So that takes us through till Wednesday. One note, though, it's going to be a little gusty tomorrow. Wind gusts up to about 40, perhaps 50 kilometers per hour in some areas. There's a look at current temperatures right now. 22 degrees in Toronto. We were up to 24 earlier. Not much to speak of in terms of the humidity, and in fact, we're going to see the humidity drop even more heading into tomorrow as drier air pushes in from the northwest. There's a look at our forecast for tonight. The risk for some isolated thunderstorms tomorrow, 23, 24 degrees. Gusty winds out of the northwest, though, to about 40 kilometers per hour. Drops off a little bit into Wednesday at 22. That's a hair below seasonal. We start to build the heat and the humidity back in on Thursday, and a little bit more in the way of rainfall as we head toward Friday and Saturday. Dwight.
Thank you, Nick.
You bet.
When we come back, more controversy at Pride Toronto after the organization gets a $250,000 grant in part to improve relations with police.
To particularly target the police in a celebration of decriminalization just made no sense. The police were responsible for our continued criminalization.
But the $250,000 was not used for what it was earmarked to. What the funds were used for after the break. There are concerns tonight about how a $250,000 grant to Pride Toronto was spent. The money was supposed to help the organization improve relationships with police, but that's not how the grant was used. John Lancaster explains.
In 2018, Pride Toronto received a $250,000 grant from Canadian Heritage to commemorate the 50th anniversary of what its application called the decriminalization of homosexuality in Canada in 1969, and make efforts to improve relations with police. historian Tom Hooper questions why Pride Toronto would get involved in either project.
To particularly target the police in a celebration of decriminalization just made no sense. The police were responsible for our continued criminalization after 1969.
Hooper notes Pride Toronto was founded after the notorious 1981 bathhouse raids, where hundreds of Toronto police officers raided gay-friendly establishments. More recently, the relationship between Pride and police hit another low in 2017 when this protest against police brutality led to a ban on uniformed officers marching in the Pride Parade. The ban was lifted a year later, just weeks before Pride applied for the $250,000 grant.
The grant money was supposed to be spent on a gala and setting up an advisory committee between police chiefs and the LGBTQ communities to help improve relations between both sides.
But that plan fell apart after Pride's members voted to continue to keep cops out of the parade.
Pride, I think, did whatever they could to try to justify continuing to get this money, and they picked something, and that's what they went with.
So, where did the money go?
According to Pride Toronto, the money was all spent, just not how originally intended. Some of it went towards a youth conference and the Indigenous community. Pride Toronto said it also got the green light to spend that money on programs it had already delivered on before it got the grant money. John Lancaster, CBC News, Toronto.
While Pride Month celebrations won't take over Toronto's streets this year as they normally do, Pride Toronto still has a lot in store, including a pretty well-known host for their digital Pride Parade, the Queenpriyanka. She's the winner of the first ever season of Canada's Drag Race. Talia Ricci spoke to her about how she plans to make the 40th anniversary a memorable moment.
Happy Pride.
Wow.
First of all.
Happy Pride to you and yours and your family and your lover and all of Toronto.
Thank you so much. So tell me about some of the ways you'll be celebrating Pride this month.
Oh, I'm celebrating Pride by looking for a boyfriend, and I'm celebrating Pride by hosting the 40th anniversary of the Toronto Pride Parade and also launching this incredible program called the Visibility Project, where I get to be the fairy godmother for artists all across Canada.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's honestly so iconic and amazing that I'm able to do this. There are so many great queer artists all over Canada, and that they want their dreams to come true, and they just need a little bit of coin to help it come true, and they need somebody like me to come along and help them along the way. And it's like $35,000 in this prize package, and it includes mentorship from me, and now I get to share the love and share the spotlight, which I'm all about.
Oh my God, it's so late. It's been a hot minute, wanna see that face.
And I'm actually releasing an album coming out soon, and all the songs are about boys that I've met in my life. You know, there's something about taking your trauma and turning it into art, and I want kids to know that life experiences are so valuable and representation is so valuable, and if you don't see anybody like you who's currently doing something that you want to do, that's because you're going to be the first person to do it, and that's beautiful.
What does it mean to you to be someone that people are looking up to in that way?
I think it's so important for kids growing up to see somebody like me. There's so much empowerment in what I do, and I love that now drag is normal, and being a brown person and winning such a ginormous prize, Canada's Drag Race first ever drag superstar, is normal. That goes down in history now. And I came out so much later in my life. I'm a new gay, believe it or not. I'm new to the queer community, and I just wish that as a younger kid, I just was more myself, because now I have so much fun being myself, and wish that when I was younger, I was able to be the visibility that I want to be.
For people who might be thinking, another Pride in a pandemic, how would you pump them up for this month?
So we have to just remember why we're celebrating Pride and how important it is, and that it's the 40th anniversary, and 40 isn't a big number to celebrate Pride. It should be thousands of years of Pride, but it's not. So get over it and party.
As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. The TSX up 19 points, the Dow down 86. Our dollar trading for 82.3 cents US. Stay with us. We're coming right back. With global pandemic continuing and many regional travel restrictions still in effect, vacations can feel out of reach. But one couple decided not to let that get in the way of enjoying their favorite getaway. Robin Miller met them to find out how.
Hi, I'm Ruth.
Hi, I'm OJ.
And we went on vacation to Florida,
Las Vegas,
the Maritimes,
Hawaii,
and New York City. All in our house. The Florida beach one was my favorite. We kept it up. We kept it up for a couple of days without taking the scene down. It was great to get up every morning, walk into my living room, sit down in a beach chair and run my toes and my feet through the sand and close my eyes and just pretend I was on a beach in Florida somewhere.
And we're supposed to go away this March again, for the whole month of March down south. But with the restrictions of COVID and that, we wanted to look at a different outlet to still get through March, because March is always a kind of a dreary month.
And we also did a food drink theme to go with the vacation. So we looked up what drinks were applicable to the vacation we were doing and what the food was that we had eaten while we were there. It brought our friends and family some laughs, and that I just thought it was a nice thing to share with people.
It's a lot cheaper than a real vacation.
Yes.
We figured, well, just play the theme up with the decorations and the associated cards, and pretend we're playing strip poker as if we were there.
I said, and then we said, what happens in our dining room stays in our dining room. So,
yeah.
And not anymore. Yeah. I've always had the live life to the fullest now attitude, but even more so since the pandemic, because nothing is a certainty.
The RV is already planned. Once it's opened up and we're allowed to travel to provinces internally, then it'll be going to Nova Scotia to visit family and friends.
I want to go home.
All the things we did to get through this pandemic. That is our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. No Kelda tonight. I think hockey is on. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6. Have a great night and stay safe, everybody.